welcome to Explorers Camp 2020 Imperial China, Day 4. So today we're going to be going over the Ming Dynasty and Imperial Chinese trade. So the Ming Dynasty was from 1368 AD to 1644 AD. The Ming Dynasty started after the Yuan Dynasty, which was a Mongol-ruled dynasty that only lasted for about 100 years. This is sometimes called the last great Chinese dynasty. The first emperor of the Ming Dynasty was Hongwu Emperor. Hongwu established a secret police called the Jin Wei. Also during this time, folding fans became more popular and they came over from Japan and Korea. So yeah, those are fine. So a lot of renovation projects came out of the Ming Dynasty. One is the Great Wall of China, which we've already talked a lot about. Another one is the Grand Canal that connected the northern territories of China with the southern, so it made it easier to trade within itself. It was built in the Sui Dynasty, which is after the Han Dynasty, and was about 1,100 miles long. Also during this time, the Forbidden City was built, which is the palace of the emperor and his family. It was about 185 acres big. It was 185 acres and had over 1,000 buildings and is situated in the middle of Beijing. Took about 15 years to build and over 1 million workers. No one could enter the Forbidden City without the permission of the emperor, so it was a very secretive place. So now we're going to go right into Imperial Chinese trade. One main aspect of Imperial Chinese trade was the Silk Road, which was a network of different trade routes that connected China with the rest of Asia and on into Europe. It was first traveled by a man named Zhang Qiang around 100 BC. Silk Road starts in Zhejiang in eastern China and ended at the Mediterranean Sea, so that's about 4,000 miles long. Different goods were carried in caravans, which or groups of camels and carts. Most people didn't travel the entire route because it was very dangerous. It was riddled with thieves wanting to steal all the goods. So you'd have different checkpoints that you would send your goods to, and then those people would send it to the next checkpoint, and so on and so forth. Not just goods traveled on the Silk Road, lots of religions spread throughout the route, religions such as Christianity, Islam, and Buddhism. Some goods that traded on the Silk Road that came from China were silk, spices, and porcelain, and they would trade these goods to get things from Europe and the Middle East, such as wood, wool, gold, and glass. Now we'll talk a little bit about silk, which Silk Road got its namesake from. Silk dates back 5,000 years ago. It was first only worn by the emperor and his family and high-ranking officials. It was a symbol of wealth and power, but later on it was worn by anybody who could afford it. It was a very expensive material. It also is used in fishing lines, in bowstrings. It also can be used in paper. Also during the Han Dynasty, it was used as a form of currency. So it was used as money. The art of silk making was kept a secret for thousands of years, up until 380 that it found its way to India. Here is a little diagram of how silk is made. Silk comes from silkworms, so they would be grown on farms, and when they were big enough, they would build themselves like a cocoon, like a caterpillar, and then these cocoons would be boiled in water, and while they were being boiled, the cocoons would unravel and become silk strings, which would be used to make the fabric. Another popular thing, popular good that came from China was porcelain. Porcelain is basically a fine white clay combined with other minerals and then fired at extremely high temperatures, highest being around 2,252 degrees Fahrenheit to give it a glass-like appearance. This porcelain was first used during the Han Dynasty. A very popular form of porcelain is blue and white wares. It was first used during the Tang Dynasty and then later perfected during the Yuan Dynasty, and we just talk about a little bit. Then by the 14th century, it being mass-produced. Mostly this porcelain was being made in the Chinese city of Jingdizhen, and sometimes called the porcelain capital of China, because this form of porcelain was very popular with Europeans. Also during the Ming Dynasty in trade, there were explorations going to travel to different lands by boat. All of these explorations were performed by one man. His name was Zhen He. He was born into a very wealthy family and then worked alongside the Yongle Emperor. Yongle ordered the construction of a treasure fleet, which were several boats made to deliver different goods and bring back goods from different lands. The fleet was made up of trading ships, warships, and support vessels, and he put Zhen in charge of all of them. In total, there were 208 vessels or ships, and there was 27,800 crew members. Zhen and his crew made 7 voyages from 1405 to 1433. Some of the places that they traveled to were in Southeast Asia, the Middle East, and the coast of Africa. One of the interesting things he brought back came from Somalia, which is in Africa, was 2 giraffes to give to the Yongle emperor. Here shows the voyages that John Hay took. Mostly it was a lot of the same, starting back over here, making its way over to Vietnam, into Indonesia, through these islands to India, all the way around Arabia, and into Africa, and then make his way back that way. So to trade, you have to have ways to get to and from places. Very popular transportations. By land, you would have camels or carts, which were mainly used on the Silk Road. And when you're on the water, you gotta use a ship. And Chinese ships are known as junks. There are different sizes of junks. Junks are the biggest. Then you have the Zaw, which is the medium size, and then the smallest is a Kokum. Pictured here is a picture of a traditional Chinese junk, and that small boat right next to it is a boat that would have been used by Christopher Columbus. So you can see that junks were massive compared to these European style ships. So that's all I have for you right now. We'll have more videos throughout the day that have to do with the Ming Dynasty and Imperial Chinese trade. Thank you all for listening. Bye-bye.